Abrone with ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast. We're all about community impact over profit. I want you to do me a favor before we get started. I want you to go over to our YouTube channel. That's ARA Self-Empowerment. I want you to like, share, and I want you to subscribe and hit that notification button if you don't mind. Also, go over to Facebook. ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast. I want you to like and follow us on Facebook. That's ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast on Facebook. This podcast is all about community impact over profit. We talk about various topics from religion, sports, community news, world news, national news, you name it, we discuss it. And we're all about community impact. We're all about destroying destructive practices. We're all about empowerment through education, revelation, and knowledge. And so we have a hot topic today, somewhat sad, a sad topic, but a hot topic. And the topic today is about the rapper Lil Ronnie. I think they call him Lil Ronnie. It was on the news that this particular young man lost his life along with his daughter, who was, I think, 5 years of age. And we seem to keep hearing these stories. Rappers, I don't know what it is about the rap industry. Well, I do know, but when I say I don't know what it is, I want to say I'm not for sure that they understand, or maybe they do understand what they're doing. And we have a lot of young people today that are, I wouldn't say raising themselves, but are very ignorant when it comes to their worldview. And I admit we don't all have to have the same worldview. We don't all have to have the same faith and religion. But at some point, you're going to realize that there's only one faith, one religion, and one world. When you realize that, I'm sure you will after death. And so what we desire to talk about, at least what I desire to talk about, is why there is so much ignorance and pathology within the African American community. Not that it's not in other races and other communities, but I want to discuss why. And when you see something like Lil Ronnie being shot running, and then his daughter is killed or murdered, so to speak. And when you see the two young men who allegedly murdered this young man, and look at their face with all these different tattoos on their face and things like that, to be honest, it makes Donald Trump look like a saint. It makes white nationalism, or the Patriot, I think it's Patriot Front, the Heritage Foundation, the KKK, it makes them all look like they're so right. Man. I was looking at a video, and there was a young lady. She was on there talking about how she loves little kids, and everyone keeps talking about the little child, and rightfully so. But as if the young man deserved to die. Nobody deserved to die, which is the same thing when you look at the Republican Party. They're all up in the air about abortions, as if it's okay to go shoot a grown man over a taillight. Or he didn't comply, so I shot him in the head because he didn't show me his ID. And this thing is out of hand. I was raised up in Oak Cliff. I was born in Martinez, California, and I was raised up in Oak Cliff. And Oak Cliff went through a transition. I remember when I was a kid coming up, you had guys who wore ropers, cowboy hats. It was cool. Then all of a sudden, you had this hip hop culture. I want to be a thug, and all this stuff came about. And I really call it nothing but the phony brave and nothing but ignorance. It's almost like watching the Safari Channel or watching the lions in the zoo. You see the lions, they always like to fight each other, rah, 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 and they'll fight each other. But when the zookeeper comes along, here comes the zookeeper. It's like when you look into some of the safari channels, if anyone ever watched the safari channels, and you see the lion and there is the commentator, there he is. He's stalking his prey. He's about to kill him. And they're just commentating on how the lion is about to get the gazelle, or he's about to get the water buffalo. And so here comes the lion, and he grabs the gazelle and chokes him and takes the life, and they're sitting there eating, yum, yum, and everybody's watching. Wow, look at him. He's bringing some for the cubs. And this is almost, not all, this is what you see in the so-called ghetto, which is the zookeeper is the dominant race, the European American race. They're the zookeepers. Here's this guy in broad daylight goes up and shoot this guy, and I just happened to go and see Lil Ronnie, one of his videos, and he's talking about he gonna show up on this city and this town and do this and do that, and and all of this started out around about the 90s. I think it's about the 90s. You know, don't get me wrong. I've listened to rap before, and some rap music. When I was younger, I felt it was pretty good. And some of it, most of it, I didn't like it. You know, I heard some music from Tupac. I thought he had some good lyrics to a certain degree. Then a lot of them I thought was just a tragedy. So there were certain rappers that I would call them conscious rappers. And when I listened to Tupac, I saw Tupac as straddling the fence. He didn't know if he wanted to be conscious or he wanted to be destructive. He couldn't make his mind up. And so now these young men are realizing that I can become famous by being a bad thug, but not realizing they are on a safari park. You on a safari park. You on a plantation. I see it all the time. You know, people go around and they act like they some thugs and we bad, we do this. What? Here's the question. If you so bad, and you hear people saying this, it makes me cringe when I hear it. Really, literally. I'm really sad when I hear this kind of stuff because it's really ignorant, really stupid. I mean, let's just think about it. Look at this. When you see that lion running around on a safari park, a lot of times, if you look at some of these clips, that lion will literally see humans on a Jeep or a truck, and he'll look at them. He knows not to mess with that truck or those people on that truck. Now, people try to make these analogies like lions and animals are ignorant. Lions are not ignorant. Animals are not ignorant now. They saw their cousin get shot, and they saw how that man with two legs had a gun in his hand and he shot him. Bow! I want you to think about it now. So lions are not stupid. Animals are not stupid. They know that they are allowed. And it's just like in the movie Training Day. Denzel Washington, his character, he said, Roger sold dope to kids. He said, I allowed Roger. So he allowed Roger to do that. Until Roger got to a certain level, then he said it's time to pay the piper. Now, African Americans, and I want to say not all, I'm not saying all, but far too many, they know that they are on a safari park. They know that they are allowed to kill one another. But it's when you step outside of that safari park, which is the ghetto, the European American experiment. You are allowed to walk around with your pants hanging, tattoos all over your face. You hear people say some of the most, Lord, I just have to say it, some of the most ignorant things you want to see. And it really hurts my heart. Especially when I see some of these young African American girls talking crazy. Y'all know I don't be like that. That's crazy. Oh God. And you hear people saying they're gonna get her. Who gonna get her? You know, what y'all gonna do? Like the hyenas fight each other, the gorillas beat each other up and all that kind of stuff. Y'all just gonna fight amongst each other like animals? But when that trapper, when that hunter comes along, everybody get in line. It was like in the movie Training Day, when Denzel Washington went into the ghetto and he said, they know not to step out of line because they know I'm gonna tax that. And so when we see people like Tupac, you know, when I heard Tupac, listened to Tupac, he had some good things to say to a certain degree. Public Enemy. But a lot of these rappers or movie stars or singers, these are people with, at best, a high school education. And we are actually listening to them. I'm not saying they don't have anything to say, but we're actually listening to these people as if they have engaged in some empirical research. This is not to say none have, because some of these rappers are educated, but a lot are not. They're no more than speakers for white supremacy or the Confederacy or the LGBT community. See, when you think about a thug and a gangster, I don't consider a thug and a gangster in prison or in jail. You don't hear thugs and gangsters talking about when you get to jail, they're gonna get your booty. Yeah, when you get to cell block 9, they're gonna tell you what? Gangsters and thugs don't go to jail. The gangsters are judges, police officers, district attorneys, governors. A gangster is Donald Trump. That's a gangster. If you want to see a gangster, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not walking around with a gun in his pocket, but he does have people with him. You better recognize. See, folks think they gangster. You're not gangster until you over a prison. You're gangster when you start talking to other nations. That's gangster. See, people speaking about that, I sell drugs, I do this. Sir, you're not gangster selling rocks on the corner. You're not gangster if you're selling kilos. You're gangsters when you're flying in drugs, when you got fields, when you're growing it. That's gangster. You're gangster when you're selling drugs and then going to meet the president. That's gangster. When are you young African American men going to realize that you're on a safari park? You're not gangster, brother. You're allowed to kill one another. You're allowed to do that. Because you can drive down the street and I'll show you a gangster when he pull up behind you and say, let me see some ID. And if you don't comply, he gonna show you gangster. He gonna get real gangster with you. He gonna get real gangster. He gonna pull you out the car. He gonna call bag up. See, not only does he have bag up, he'll call the sheriff department, the state trooper. He'll get deep with you. He'll go all the way to the military. That's gangster. And so you keep hearing these African American men, and I'm not saying they're not doing other races, so I'm dealing with Lil Ronnie and his 5-year-old daughter. He lost his 5-year-old daughter and his life. He's running, trying to save his life. They're letting loose on him. Emptying the clip. But now these same two dudes that emptied the clip, now I want you to pay attention to this. And this is a question that I have for you. Many people like these people. It's like they know how to kill, but then they know to let their hands up and go peacefully. They don't flame out when the zookeeper comes, when that hunter comes to get you. you put your hands up, boss. Hey, boss, I don't want no trouble, boss. I don't want no smoke. And then you go to jail and act a donkey in jail. Talking about come in here if you want to. Well, come in. What? So you are captured and taken to a jail cell, and in the jail cell you claim that that's like you own this or something, like that's your property. So if people are getting booty in jail and they get people booty, that means that the true gangster, he's allowing that. He is producing punks in jail. Because at any time he want to stop it, the gangster can stop it. He the one got you in there, so that means he can get you out. That means that he can stop it. He's allowing you to be punks, to get booty in prison. This is allowed. This is allowed. Now, let's think about this now. Donald Trump is thinking about dismantling the Department of Education. He's not thinking about it, but he's doing a lot of things that is affecting African Americans. And yet these so-called gangsters or thugs or whatever you want to call yourself and rappers, and I'm not saying all of them, very little of them are taking political stances concerning what is actually happening in the United States of America today. And I feel bad for many of our African American young daughters. Because who are they going to marry? Because if they're not emasculating our young men, this is, I was just doing this, a discussion board in my studies. And in the studies, they brought up how so many African American boys, indigenous young boys, and boys, period, are more so put in special education versus girls and European American girls and European American boys. They were saying it's more likely for a African American young male or Alaskan or indigenous male to be put in a special ed. Now let's think about that. Why is that? So if you're having more young boys, especially African American boys, being diagnosed as or placed in some type of special education, they're too busy. They got some dysfunction, some behavior problems. And so the first thing most likely that you place these young men in or is in some type of special education. Let's see if he can rap, if he can dunk a basketball, throw a football. And this is not to say all of them. This is to say this is the narrative. This is where you're pushing them. And then with our young African American girls or young girls, period, you're pushing them to college, engineering, law. So who are they going to marry? How can they produce a family when you have somebody like the two guys who just shot Lil Ronnie, and we keep hearing these shootings? This is not to say that African American men lead in murder and violence like some people like to say, but what I will say is this. They are doing a real good job of dumbing down the African American community. A real good job. And they're doing it through music, Hollywood, and the entertainment industry. Oh yeah. Hip hop culture, the television, and the entertainment industry is doing something on the level that Jim Crow couldn't even do. If they're not causing our young men to be homosexuals, they're causing them to have these false dreams of being rich and having all this money. And I want to say this. It's hard to compete with them. It's hard to create a business, because when you try to establish a business that can actually build up the community, that can actually empower, you will receive very little support. But if you open up something that's destructive, like a club, a smoke shop, a beauty shop that sell weaves and stuff like that, you hear them talking all the time. I got this purple drink. It's to the point of calling each other niggas. All this double bind communication. Don't call me a nigga, but then saying nigga. You don't want this person to call you a nigga, but you call each other niggas. You got Mexicans thinking it's cool to say nigga. What's up, nigga? What up, my nigga? No, that means my homie. So all of these ebonics, it's ebonics all over the place. And so what's the problem is today is that there has to be a universal definition of what it means to be of African ancestry. We all over the place. We don't know if we're niggers, Negroes, colored, black. My God, what are we? We haven't agreed on a universal definition of what we are. And let me say this. No doubt that these guys that going around here, when I say phony brave, that I am not saying that these people won't kill you. What I mean phony brave is that you don't have the brave or the courage to walk that thing out. It doesn't take courage to shoot somebody and catch somebody slipping. That's easy. But what it takes courage is when you go up against a force more bigger than you, knowing that you don't have the ability, but you go anyway. Now that's courage. See, that's courage. Most African American men in the United States of America don't have that type of courage. That's why you will never do what the Republican Party did on January the 6th, because you don't have that type of courage. You take your frustration out on one another because you know that you really don't have the courage. Now, this is not to say all African Americans don't have courage. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about you that are out there trying to gang bang, shoot them up, playing cowboys and Indians amongst one another. You don't really have courage like that, because it's easy to shoot somebody. It's easy to do something when you got the numbers. Just like a lot of European Americans don't have that type of courage. I didn't say all of them. It's easy for them to beat on people when they have the numbers. But I do want to address this ignorance. As African Americans, and I say African Americans because my ancestry, when I trace it back to Africa, I am an American because I'm a citizen and I'm in a melting pot that's compiled of different races. But as African Americans, or we should be African Americans, we have to disassociate ourselves from this foolishness. You know, we out here boycotting Walmart and boycotting Target. I'm all for it, bro. But at some point, we have to boycott rap music. I'm just keeping it 100. We need to just disassociate. We need to stop giving them our dollars. This is why they do stuff like they're doing. We're already up against the gun. We're already lacking for male leadership and male bodies. If white supremacy decided to put us back into slavery, it would be a 24-hour, and we probably would be in slavery in 24 hours, because we don't have the numbers, because we have people like that just killed Lil Ronnie, and I think they killed the guy up in Memphis, got his name, and all the different rappers that I could think about that's been shot. So at some point, we have to make it or place it on the agenda to say, you know what, going forward, I'm not supporting rap music anymore. And you say, well, all rap music doesn't do this. Well, any rap music that promotes violence, shoot 'em up, drugs, talking about drink, and I did this and all this, and glorifying. It's the same thing with the Confederacy. It's not heritage because you're glorifying something that fought to keep African Americans or Africans in slavery. And so if you're promoting rap music and you're out there trying to glorify drugs usage, glorify killing, glorify what you call the ghetto, then that rap music, it shouldn't be promoted. You shouldn't buy it. You should stop buying it. Just like hip hop. If you glorify nakedness, nudity, sex outside of marriage, you shouldn't buy it. Well, it seemed like I heard a person talk about America. It seemed like when 9/11 hit, everybody was being nice. Oh, come on. If somebody got in your way, no problem. Hey, waving and you need anything? And then as soon as the fear wore off, everybody back to road rage again. When George Floyd was killed, everybody was up in a roar because the European American cop killed George Floyd, and rightfully so. But the problem is that here we have another incident concerning this rap music. And I keep seeing it all the time, these gang colors and red and blue. We should have no fellowship. I think at this point, if you ask me, if a person is in a gang, a gang, I think we all have no fellowship. When I was coming up, I was raised in church and I was raised in the hood, I admit, in Oak Cliff. But there were certain people we didn't have fellowship with. We disassociated. They was on their side of the street and we stayed on our side of the street. And I think anybody that's in a gang, we ought to disassociate from them. I'm not saying you got to try to do something to them and all this stuff. I think you should have no fellowship with them. You need to leave them alone. Men that walk around here want to sag and got all this stuff all on their face. I'm not saying if one time in your life you did that. You need to be make it a priority at some point to get that stuff off your face and off your whatever. But when you're seeing people doing that, I'm not saying do not talk to them or try to get in some type of conceptualization where we can see what's going on, but it has to be a point that we have to disassociate with these type of people. Malcolm X said you should not pay or buy where you cannot be hired. I think that's how he said it. You should not buy where you cannot be hired. I think as African American women and African American men, we should not buy their music. We shouldn't go to their concerts. Just like Donald Trump is putting tariffs, you ought to put tariffs on them. Hey man, I'm not associating with you. I'm not going to buy your music. I'm not dating you. African American women shouldn't even date these type of guys. Like, I'm not even dating you. I'm not going to let you reproduce. And let me say this before you. There are different types of African American men. There is the African American male, and then there is the Negro male. And the people that killed Lil Ronnie, those are Negroes. They were created by the European American experiment. Yep. And Negroes should not reproduce. Negroes are created by the Confederacy. And I'm not saying that the Negro cannot be delivered. He cannot be healed, that he cannot, his mind cannot be rejuvenated. But until the Negro has been educated, there will always be white supremacy because the Negro is in cahoots with white supremacy. Whether he know it or not, the Negro is white supremacy. And how we stop the Negro is that we, as African Americans, who know we're not Negroes, we know we're not niggas, you should not reproduce with a Negro. You have to let the Negro die out or let the Negro be educated. He has to make a decision. There are Negro women out here. You cannot marry or have sex with a Negro. I remember my dad gave me this advice. He said, I'm going to give you some advice. He said, don't you ever marry or be with an ignorant woman. See, an ignorant woman is a Negro. And this is why the European Americans and white supremacy is the way it is. This is why Donald Trump was able to get in the White House. You heard him say, I want to thank all of my black and Mexican. He had a lot of low-level ignorant Negroes voted for him. And then he had some educated Negroes. See, you have, there's levels to this. See, you have the ignorant Negro and you have the educated Negro. See, the educated Negro is malicious with his. He knows what he's doing. Candace Owens is an educated Negro. Officer Tatum is an educated Negro. But those two Negroes that killed Lil Ronnie, those were ignorant Negroes. See, you have to be ignorant to put all that stuff on your face like that. See, that's ignorant. That's an ignorant Negro. And when you give a Negro some money and a weapon, boy, that's dangerous. That's a double whammy. It's like in the movie Django. He said, who gave a nigga a gun? This is what he said in the movie Django. They was wondering how Django got the gun. They said, who gave a nigga a gun? You give a Negro a gun and put some money in his hand, he'll go wipe out as many other African Americans and Negroes as he can. He's self-checked. And then if you don't sterilize the Negro, he'll go out and impregnate as many. He don't care. They Negro women, African American women, he'll impregnate them all and spread his ignorant seed everywhere. And this is why European Americans are over us now. This is why they're able to do what they're doing, because they're sitting back laughing at us. Because they know that the Negro is not exceptional. He's not exceptional. See, that Negro goes around with his pants hanging off his butt. He wants to talk about his penis size. Man, my penis big, baby. I be getting them. I'm knocking them down, baby. I know I'm a man because I know how to knock them down. Woo. Just like in the movie Django, when he killed the other Negro, he patted him on the back and said, now you go in there and get you a tall, but you did a good job, nigga. You did a good job, nigga. I'm sure when they get him down there, them two Negroes, they gonna say, you did a good job, nigga. Good job. Y'all go in there and get y'all some food. Good job, nigga. Wow. 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 But it's when they see an African American male, not all, but many European Americans want to destroy an African American man or woman because he knows you know, but the Negro wants to destroy you. The Negro wants to kill you because he's a Negro. And so I close this podcast. I want you to like and subscribe and hit that notification. But I want you to do this, you that are under the sound of my voice. I want you to stop supporting hip hop and rap music. We need to start doing more than boycott Walmart. We need to boycott rap music. We need to boycott certain movies. There are certain movies, just like they got rated R, XXX, whatever. There are certain movies we need to, as African Americans, we need to stop buying and supporting them. Because these are Negroes, these are niggers that the European American experiment has created. We need to teach our daughters how to recognize a Negro. whether he's an educated Negro or an ignorant Negro, whether she's an educated female Negro or an ignorant female Negro. We need to teach our African American sons and African American daughters to not mate with Negroes, because they are on the side of the Confederacy. They are on the side of the European American experiment. You better wake up before it's too late.